There is a number sitting out there somewhere in your future that is the exact price of never having to work again. Not retire at 65 and hope it lasts. Never work again. A number where you could quit tomorrow, wake up every morning with no job, and money would still land in your account month after month for the rest of your life, without you touching the pile that produces it. Today we're going to find that number, your number, because it's different for everyone. And by the end of this, you're going to know almost exactly which one is yours. Here's the idea in one sentence because it's simpler than people make it sound. When you own a piece of a business through stocks, some of those companies mail you a slice of their profits on a schedule just for owning the shares. That slice is called a dividend. You don't sell anything. You don't clock in, you just own, and the checks arrive. So the entire game of never working again comes down to this. Build a pile of dividend-paying investments so large that the checks it mails you every year are bigger than the cost of your life. When the money flowing in beats the money flowing out, you are free. The job becomes optional, forever. Let me show you the machine you're actually building, because a picture makes this whole thing click. Imagine a giant apple tree that you plant and grow over the years. For a long time, you're the one carrying water to it, feeding it, protecting it, and it gives you almost nothing back. But once it's fully grown, every autumn it drops a harvest of apples, and you get to eat those apples, sell those apples, live off those apples, without ever cutting down the tree. The tree is your invested pile. The apples that fall every year are your dividends, and the goal is to grow the tree so big that its yearly harvest feeds you completely, while the tree itself stands there untouched, dropping a fresh harvest every single year for the rest of your life. You never eat the tree. You only ever eat the apples. So how big does the tree have to be? Here's the rule of thumb that runs this entire video. A broad basket of solid dividend-paying stocks tends to pay you somewhere in the range of 3 to 4% of the pile's value every year in dividends. So let's use a round, slightly conservative number and say your tree drops about 3.5% of itself in apples each year. Flip that around and you get a simple piece of math that tells you the size of the tree. Whatever your life costs for a year, multiply it by roughly 30, and that's the pile you need. Picture it like this. For every single dollar you want to receive each year without working, you need to plant about $30 in the ground. $30 of tree for $1 of annual apples. Hold that number times 30 because we're about to run it for a bunch of very different people, and one of them is going to look a lot like you. And that's the fun part, because the number that sets you free is wildly different depending on the life you actually want. The person who needs a private jet and the person who needs a cabin and a garden are playing two completely different games. So let's meet some real recognizable people, run their exact numbers, and let you find yourself in the lineup. I'll take you from the leanest life all the way up to the richest, and you'll feel the moment one of them clicks. First, meet Marcus, the minimalist. Picture a lean, calm guy in his early 30s in a tiny, tidy studio apartment in a low-cost town in the middle of the country. He bikes everywhere. Picture the bike hanging on the wall where other people would hang a TV. He cooks nearly all his own food. Picture a simple kitchen with a pot of rice and beans and a rack of spices. He owns almost nothing, and he likes it that way. His whole life costs him about $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year. Marcus doesn't want a mansion. He wants his mornings back. So what does Marcus need? $24,000 times 30 is $720,000. Picture Marcus's tree as a healthy, modest fruit tree in a backyard. Not enormous, but more than enough to feed one low-maintenance person forever. Under $1 million, and Marcus never works another day. That is the shock of this whole video. For a person who genuinely keeps life simple, freedom costs less than most people think a nice house costs. Now meet Diego and Sofia, the frugal family of 4. Picture a warm, slightly chaotic household. 2 kids, a modest 3-bedroom house in a mid-cost suburb, one reliable paid-off minivan in the driveway, a backyard with a trampoline and a vegetable patch. They're not deprived, they're just deliberate. They cook at home, they buy used, they take road trips instead of flights. Their whole family runs on about $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Run it, 60,000 times 30 is $1.8 million. Picture their tree as a big sprawling backyard tree with enough branches to shade a whole family. 4 people sitting under it while apples drop into their laps. $1.8 million, and 2 parents never have to set an alarm for a job again while raising 2 kids. It's a much bigger tree than Marcus's, but for a whole family living a genuinely comfortable middle-class life, it's within the realm of what a disciplined couple can actually build over a career. Now meet Ashley, the normal city professional. Picture a woman in her late 20s in a real apartment in a real city. Nice enough. Exposed brick. A couch she likes, a closet that isn't extravagant but isn't empty. She goes out to eat with friends, takes a real vacation once a year, has a gym membership she actually uses, and drives a normal car. This is not a fancy life. This is just a regular, pleasant American life in a city. It costs her about $7,000 a month, $84,000 a year. Her number, $84,000 times 30, is roughly $2.5 million. Picture Ashley's tree as a full, tall, healthy tree in a city courtyard, big enough that its harvest covers rent, restaurants, and a plane ticket every year forever. $2.5 million. This is the number for the life most people picture when they picture comfortable but not rich. And it's the one where a lot of you are going to feel the weight of what freedom actually costs. Now let's climb higher. Meet the Hendersons, the upper middle class family living the full suburban dream. Picture a big, beautiful house in a good school district, 2 nice cars in a 3-car garage, kids and activities that cost real money, travel, soccer, music lessons, braces. Picture a family that flies somewhere warm every winter and somewhere fun every summer. A household that looks from the outside like they've made it. Their life costs about $12,000 a month, $144,000 a year. Run it. 144,000 times 30 is about $4.33 million. Picture their tree as an enormous, magnificent oak of a fruit tree. Its harvest filling crates every autumn. $4.3 million to keep that entire life running with no one going to work. This is where you start to feel the tree getting genuinely large, where never work again stops being a modest goal and becomes a serious decades-long mission. Now meet Victoria, the luxury single. Picture a sleek, high-floor apartment in an expensive city, floor-to-ceiling windows, a skyline view. Picture designer everything, first-class flights, dinners at the restaurants with the waiting lists, a wardrobe that gets refreshed every season. Victoria lives alone, but she lives large, about $20,000 a month, $240,000 a year, all on herself. Her number, 240,000 times 30, is $7.2 million. Picture her tree as a towering manicured tree in a rooftop garden, dropping golden apples onto marble. $7.2 million for one person to live a life of pure luxury without a job. Notice what just happened. Victoria, one single person, needs 10 times the tree that Marcus needs. Because the number was never about how many people you're feeding. It's about how expensive each mouth is. And finally, meet the Whitmores, the truly wealthy family. Picture a gated estate, a staff, multiple homes, private travel. Picture a garage that looks like a car showroom and a calendar full of places most people only see in magazines. Their life costs around $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year. Run it one last time. 600,000 times 30 is $18 million. Picture their tree as an entire orchard. Rows and rows of trees stretching to the horizon, harvested by the truckload. $18 million invested to keep that life running on dividends alone. This is the number almost nobody reaches. And seeing it lined up against Marcus's 700,000 is the whole lesson of this video in a single image. 2 people, same freedom, same never work again, and one of them needs 25 times the tree of the other. Not because one is smarter, because one chose a life that costs 25 times as much. So line them all up in your head like a row of trees growing from small to enormous. Marcus, the minimalist, under $1 million. Diego and Sophia's family, $1.8 million. Ashley, the city professional, $2.5 million. The Henderson family, $4.3 million. Victoria, the luxury single, $7.2 million. And the Whitmores, $18 million. Same goal for every one of them, never work again. And the number swings from under $1 million to $18 million based on one single variable, the cost of the life you choose to live. Somewhere in that row of trees is yours. And here's the point I want to hammer, because it's the thing that changes everything. You don't get to your number only by growing the tree. You also get there by shrinking the life. Every dollar you cut from your yearly cost of living erases about $30 from the tree you need to plant. Which brings us to the secret hiding underneath this entire video. Here's the reveal, and it's the opposite of what the whole personal finance world screams at you. Everyone tells you the path to never working again is to earn more, bigger salary, bigger raise, bigger pile. And earning more helps, of course it does. But look at what actually happened across those 6 people. The thing that moved their freedom number wasn't their income at all. It was their spending. Marcus and Victoria could earn the exact same paycheck, and Marcus would be free with $700,000, while Victoria would still need over $7 million. The spender is chasing a tree 10 times bigger for the same freedom. So the fastest way to your number is not just a bigger shovel to dig with, it's wanting a smaller tree. Every time you permanently lower the cost of your life, you don't just save that money once. You demolish 30 times that amount off the finish line, forever. Cutting $1,000 a month from your life, $12,000 a year, doesn't move your target by $12,000. It moves it by $360,000. Picture your finish line physically sprinting towards you every time you let go of an expense you never really needed. And this is why 2 people earning the identical salary can end up in completely different universes. So let me show you exactly that. Picture 2 coworkers, side by side, same job, same paycheck landing on the same day. Call them the sprinter and the treadmiller. From the outside for years, their lives look almost identical. Same office, same commute, same starting line. The treadmiller does what feels normal. Every time a raise comes, the life inflates to match it. Picture the raise arriving and immediately turning into a bigger apartment, a newer leased car, more subscriptions, nicer dinners, the lifestyle growing in perfect lockstep with the paycheck. And here's the trap. Drawn out, because their cost of living keeps rising, their freedom number keeps rising too. Picture the treadmiller running toward a finish line that backs away from them at exactly the speed they run. They earn more, they spend more, they need a bigger tree, and the whole time it feels like progress, but the distance to never work again never actually shrinks. They could do this for 40 years and retire exactly on schedule, at the very end, exhausted, because the finish line moved every time they got faster. The sprinter, same salary, does one thing differently. Picture every raise splitting in two. A small slice improves their life, and the big slice gets planted into the tree. Their cost of living stays low and flat while their income climbs. So watch what happens to their finish line. It isn't moving away because their spending isn't growing, and meanwhile they're hurling money at the tree. Picture the sprinter running toward a finish line that is standing still, and then, as the dividends start compounding, picture that finish line actually walking toward them. The gap collapses from both ends at once. The sprinter crosses into never work again, not at 65, but potentially in their 40s or even their 30s. Same income as the treadmiller, entirely different life. For one reason, they refused to let their spending chase their income, so their tree stayed small enough to actually grow past it. Now, before you go plant anything, let me be honest with you about the traps. Because a video that only shows you the dream is lying to you, and I don't want you building on sand. The first trap is inflation, and you have to picture it as a slow leak. The cost of your life will not sit still for the next 40 years. A life that costs $60,000 today might cost double that in a few decades. So the apples your tree drops have to grow over time too. The good news is that healthy companies tend to raise their dividends over the years, and a growing tree drops a growing harvest, which is exactly why you want dividend growers and not just high payers. But you cannot plan your number using only today's cost of living and assume you're done. Picture your target gently rising over the years, and picture your tree needing to outgrow it. The second trap is the one that ruins people, and it's chasing the biggest apples. Picture a shady character at a farmer's market offering a tree that promises to drop apples worth 10, 12, 15% of its value every year, triple the normal harvest. Your eyes light up because that means a much smaller tree, right? Here's the truth. A dividend that looks too good to be true almost always is. Picture that miracle tree, and then picture it dropping fewer apples the next year, and then rotting from the roots, and then the whole thing falling over. Because a company paying out a wildly high dividend is often a company in trouble, bleeding cash it can't sustain. And that dividend gets cut and the stock collapses right alongside it. The person who reached for the 15% tree often ends up with no apples and a dead trunk. Slower, steadier, boring trees are the ones that feed you for 50 years. The third trap is taxes, the neighbor who shows up every autumn to take a share of your harvest. In most cases, the dividends you receive get taxed, which means the apples that actually make it to your table are somewhat fewer than the ones that fell. So when you're calculating the life you can live, you have to plan for the harvest after the tax collector takes his basket, not before. This isn't a reason to panic, and it isn't financial advice about your specific situation. It's just a reason to build your tree a little bigger than the raw math suggests, so that what's left after taxes still covers your life with room to spare. And the fourth trap is the most human one, the danger of eating the tree. Picture a bad year, the market drops, fear sets in, and there's a temptation to start cutting branches off the tree for firewood, or digging up part of the trunk to sell. The entire magic of this system is that you live off the apples and never touch the tree. The moment you start consuming the tree itself, the harvest shrinks, which tempts you to cut more, which shrinks it further. A spiral that ends with a stump. Picture building a fence around your tree in your mind, with one rule painted on it: apples only, never the tree. That discipline, in the bad years especially, is the difference between a harvest that lasts forever and one that runs out. So let me pull this all the way back and hand you the one thing to actually do with it. Tonight, figure out the real honest cost of your life for 1 year. Not the life you're told to want, the life you actually want. Then multiply it by 30. That number, staring back at you, is the price of your freedom. The size of the tree that drops enough apples to feed your specific life forever. And here's the empowering part. That number is not fixed, and you hold both ends of it. You can grow the tree by planting more, faster every month. And you can shrink the tree by choosing a life that costs less to run, knowing that every dollar you cut erases 30 from the target. Most people only ever pull the first lever, grinding for a bigger and bigger shovel while their spending quietly makes the tree impossible. The people who actually get free pull both. They build the tree with one hand and keep the life simple with the other, and the finish line comes rushing toward them from both directions. You are not trying to become the richest person in the room. You are trying to plant a tree big enough to feed the exact life you want and then live under it, free for the rest of your days. Marcus did it with a small tree and simple mornings, The Whitmores did it with an orchard and an estate. Neither one is more free than the other. They just chose different sized lives and paid the matching price. So find your number. Pick your tree and then spend the rest of your working years planting it, protecting it, and refusing to cut it down. Because on the day its harvest finally outgrows your life, you get to set down the shovel, walk out of the job for the last time, and live off the apples forever.